Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me well and see me well. So today is how to score more than 8 in IELTS with me. My name is Akalai. I am Flex Alumna 2016. I've taken IELTS 1 year ago, 2019 in July, and my overall score band was 8 and my reading was 8.5, listening 8.5 and speaking 8. So I'm gonna be covering these exact sections. And this webinar is second part. First part was a week ago, and I told you about, I gave you a brief introduction of what IELTS is, and I also talked about a listening section. I gave you a couple tips, and so that what was 1 week ago. So today I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. Okay. I hope you can see it. Okay, so reading part. So reading section lasts for 1 hour and it has 3 texts, 3 passages, and each passage looks like this. Okay, so you are getting 3 of these and you have 40 questions in total, 20 minutes for each passage. And usually texts are from journals, magazines, could be articles. And also one important part is if you are taking academic IELTS, then it's probably more, let's say, like education related topics. If your IELTS is general, then your text is going to be very it's going to be much more simple than academic IELTS. So yes, keep that in mind. If you want to apply to university abroad, then of course you're gonna take academic IELTS. So your reading section will be very challenging, difficult. So you have to dedicate some time to prepare for it. So you also won't have any time to transfer your answers. So you should read and transfer your answers right away while reading. Different question types, and you will also be tested for having these different skills: reading for main ideas, which is skimming, and reading for detail, which is scanning skill, and reading for gist, which is kind of similar to first skill. Okay, I showed you that's the passage, and these are 10 types of questions you will have in your reading section. Multiple choice, that's like ABC, right? Okay, and then you will also have short answer questions. Let's look at this one. It says list 4 reasons for Spencer being a child prodigy. No more than 3 words. Okay, this could be number 4. Table, form, summary, flow chart. Short answer questions are they ask you to answer the question only with 1 or 2 words. Okay, next one is yes, no, not given. The 5th, this one. This is usually the most complicated, the most difficult one for many IELTS takers because the thing with not given is very vague, even if it makes sense, and you don't see it. Like, you might read a statement, a sentence, and be like, okay, that makes sense, it's logical, I read something about in the text, that must be true, that must be yes, and then you circle it, but then it turns out to be not given because this exact sentence, like the text doesn't have this exact sentence. So you should be very careful. This not given is very tricky. So the way you can master it is you just Google like yes, no, not given questions IELTS, and then you just have a bunch of them. You just simply work on them, practice, and then you see the answers, you compare why, how, and then that's how you master this type of question. Classification questions. Okay, ABC, and then you match this. Classification. This one is matching. Choosing headings. So remember I told you that passage looks like this, and you will have they don't have like headings, but there is one idea expressed in each paragraph, and your goal is to, they will give you headings, they will give you like names of each paragraph, and then you'll have to match them. Okay, two types of stress, for example, let's say two types of motor cars. Okay, maybe in paragraph C they are discussing like there was one before and then they came up with new one, blah blah. So you will have to keep that in mind. When you're reading, you should be able to detect right away what is the main idea about it. Okay, this is the most interesting one to me. Scanning, identifying location or information, and also skimming. So skimming is a technique, a skill that you use to get a general idea of the text and where different information might be located. Okay, so how do you skim? You look at a sentence and then you should look at parts of speeches. You look at noun, you look at verb, and then you kind of get an idea who did what, and then you just go on with it, and then you have very vague, very rough idea of what the text is about, what the paragraph sentence is about. That's skimming. Second skill technique is scanning, is locating a specific individual piece of information, for example, a word, phrase, number, item, or name. Let's say your question was identify or where this action happened. Okay, so you should look for a location, maybe a street name, maybe a town, and then you just go ahead, you look at the paragraph and you just go over, and then you look for maybe something starts with capital letter, that's scanning. You should be able to use both of these techniques very well. So you look at question, you identify which of the skills you need, and then you go ahead and you start looking for it according to that. Also, there is labeling a diagram which has numbered parts. This type of question is going to be the last one in each passage, so you'll have 3 of these diagrams, 3 of these pictures. Usually you have very weirdly looking devices like this. You usually don't really see them in your real life, so you might not know their the names of each detail in this device. So you look at it resembling something. Okay, here we can so we kind of know there should be a noun, right? And then you go back to the text, and this text is obviously about this device. And then maybe you look, it's on the top part of it, right? So maybe you find this paragraph where it's describing it, like in the top part you have this, and then in the bottom it has that, and then you look for this word and it's probably a noun, and then you put it here in your answer sheet, number 9, and then the word itself. So yeah, that's labeling. Couple tips that I would like to give you. Work on your paraphrasing. Paraphrasing, so IELTS is all about paraphrasing. You read something in the text, but the question is completely different. You might not even have the same exact words, but they're talking about the same exact things. So that's paraphrasing. Improve your skimming and scanning skills. Find keywords, okay, to get the idea. Read as much as possible. So these texts, these articles, passages, they are usually full of very high words, very academic words, words you don't usually, even if you speak well, you read some books, but these articles can be a little bit different because they want to test your vocabulary as well. If you understand everything, then you might score higher. This is why you should try to broaden and improve your vocabulary, learn new words. And when you prepare for IELTS, for example, right now, you should look up the words you don't know. Because from my experience, I can tell that I have come across those words that I skipped. So I was just reading to see what my score would be. And then I didn't understand a couple words, and then I'm like, but I get the general idea, and I would skip. But then next time I would have the same word, but I wouldn't understand the meaning because I didn't understand the word. So every time you practice, just write them down, look them up, learn their translation or what it means, definition. Manage your time. As you know, you have 1 hour, 3 passages, 20 minutes for each, and 40 questions, and no time for transferring answers. So be careful with your time. Last tip, don't read everything, find only answers to questions. That's what I was told when I prepared for IELTS, but if you read very quickly, then you can read the whole text. Why not, right? If you read very quickly, but if you read very thoroughly, you're very attentive to details, then you might lose your time. So be careful about that. And speaking. But before speaking, if you have any questions about reading section, you might ask them if you want in the comment section. I will remove that. Not necessarily education from academic context. Okay, yes, that's true. Mostly academic. Agree. If you have any questions, please ask about reading section. And I will go ahead and start my speaking. Okay. So speaking section structure looks like this. You have 3 parts. And the first part is introduction and interview. Second is monologue. You'll be talking for 1-2 minutes on a topic written on a card. And third part is two-way discussion. Usually questions about that come from part 3 are usually connected with part 2. And overall it will take you 10-14 minutes. My speaking test was very short. It took me, I think, 10ish, even 9-8 minutes to complete it. And so part 1 is the easiest one, part 2 more difficult, and then the most difficult is going to be part 3, where you will have to use the vocabulary that you learn specifically for IELTS, that you don't really use in everyday life, So these are the questions that they will ask you in part 1. For example, home. It could be any topic. It could be home, it could be school, your town, maybe countries. Tell me about your family, or can you describe your house? Very general topics. Do you live in a house or a flat? Who do you live with? Do you plan to live there for a long time? And speaking part 2, describe something you own which is very important to you. So right here you have a situation, or describe something. Tell me about the situation when you did blah blah blah, It could be anything. And then you should say, and then they will write some points that you should mention, that you should include in your monologue. And then it has instructions. You have 1 minute to think about something. You can write your ideas very quickly on your piece of paper. You can make notes. That's part 2. And then part 3, questions that the interviewer is going to ask you, you will answer, and then it kind of goes into dialogue. So yes, speaking tips. Give full answers. So if they say, who do you live with? You can say, mom, but it's better to say, well, currently I live with my parents, or something like that. To prepare for it, as the best way is to record yourself. For example, you take part 1 of IELTS speaking, and then you Google part 1 questions, and then you have bunch 50 questions, and then you take your phone, you record yourself answering for each question, let's say for 2 minutes, just talking about it for 2 minutes, trying to be as detailed as possible, and that's how you will learn to speak a lot, and to maybe you will have the same questions asked Okay, so record yourself. That's what I did, and it helped me a lot. Complicate your sentences. Okay, accent doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I myself have it, and it didn't really like it wasn't an obstacle for me. Use descriptive words. You could say I live like my room is very big, but you could also say you could say I live in this house and my room is located in this part. But you could also like use descriptive words saying my room is very like spacious or like tiny or anything you want. Practice speaking with a timer. Don't forget about it. Stay on topic. Many people get off track and they like stray from the topic. This could be my that's the mistake I used to make a lot. Used to stray from the topic, and you should, when you record yourself, you clearly see what mistakes you're making. Explain foreign words. Sometimes they might in your monologue you might mention some names or some words that are of great importance in your story because it's important, but they might not make sense in English. So you should translate them. You should tell what they mean. Okay. So here we see each IELTS band score has its own, let's say, vocabulary. If you're using only simple vocabulary, then you might score only like 6 or 5 or 7, you know. But if you complicate them, then the interviewer will know that your vocabulary belongs to maybe more 7 or 8, you know. So let's see. Theoretical, academic, or not. You could say educational instead of theoretical. No, sorry, no. You could. These are the words you could use for band 7. Valid, significant, concentrate. For 8, miscalculation, determination, cognitive. Okay. I have some personal insights and tips that might help you because they helped me, so I want to share what I learned. Prioritizing. IELTS takes a lot of time, and you obviously have a lot of things to take care of. Could be your family, friends, studies, work, and this didn't work with me. I couldn't dedicate my time to each like sphere of my life. My life looked more like this, which is like triangle with good grades, enough sleep, and social life. And it says you can choose only 2. So I chose good grades and enough sleep, and I crossed over social life. So for a couple months I was completely passive socially, but it helped me to get, let's say, good grades. My next insight and tip is turn nerves into excitement, which was said by Tom Holland. I love this quote because your excitement and your like anxiety could be easily transferred from like one to another. So if you're nervous, turn them into excitement. So that means you have that much energy, right? Be like curious. Be like you should be able to enjoy the process of learning, like preparing for IELTS. And please try to connect IELTS with your hobbies. That will help a lot. That way you will make it more enjoyable. As I said, complicate your words. Instead of saying very huge, you can say colossal. And there are some memes on the internet that I found, like Kill Them With Kindness by Selena Gomez. And then, but IELTS English would probably sound like bestow upon the deprivation of life accompanied by compassion. Or like I cannot, I do not currently possess the ability to can. That's obviously a joke, but yeah, that's kind of what IELTS is, complicating everything. We don't talk anymore. You and I no longer engage in verbal confabulations. Okay, this is what I did. I was, maybe still am, a Game of Thrones fan, and the way I was learning English, so I was trying to combine my hobbies with IELTS, So I would learn some descriptive words, adjectives, that would describe each character: savage, bloodthirsty, cold-blooded, tyrannical, treacherous, and etc. And I found it extremely interesting for me. Maybe that could also help to your preparation. Also, be consistent. Better to study for 2 hours a day than the whole weekend for 10 hours. Yep. Do not rely on one resource. People, books, websites. Use YouTube. Use IELTS official website, which is ieltsonlinetests.com. If you Google, it will pop up, the first link. And it has free, not speaking, reading and listening tests from previous official tests. And you take the test, and then you will get your score and where you made mistake and how you were supposed to, like what you were supposed to choose and why is it incorrect and stuff. They will explain. Prioritize your life, as I mentioned earlier. Enrich your vocabulary, expressions, idioms, phrasal verbs. Watch TV shows, movies while preparing for IELTS. In English, of course, and with subtitles if possible. So that's it. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Okay, that was it. And that took me approximately 4 months to prepare for IELTS, and my level was upper intermediate. And you should take into consideration your current level of English before taking IELTS. If your level is lower than intermediate, then of course it's gonna take a long time to bring your level to upper intermediate and then prepare for IELTS, because the grammar part is very tricky, so you should keep that in mind too. Okay, if you don't have any questions, that was it for today. And thank you very much for being with me here. Bye bye.